Umpire throws the ball in the air. Stewart gets it down to Warren Foley. Fantastic. Right foot kick long towards Heath. Buck leading out. Can't take the mark. Watch out. Here comes Lukey again. Handball back to Buck. Steps around a couple. Runs through the middle. Off a step from 40 metres out. Kicks the goal.
What a goal.
Heath Buck kicks his fourth.
G'day guys, welcome to another edition of My Blue Heaven. Guess where I am today? I'm at a really quiet and peaceful Essendon Recreation Reserve, aka Windy Hill. The former home of the Essendon Football Club. Well, I shouldn't say former. It's still their spiritual home and they still have ties to this ground. Their VFL team play games here. The VFLW team plays games here. They also play Essendon District Football League finals game at this ground. In fact, the headquarters are just over there. But this was the home of the Essendon Football Club between 1922. I played their last game here in 1991, and it was their training base right up until 2013, until they went out to that monstrosity of a joint, the hangar out at the Tullamarine, which is just such an eyesore. But this here is a ground which was feared from an oppositional fan point of view, and we did come here a lot in the 1970s, 1980s, and Mum said this place was a difficult place to find a park at. That was the first thing she said. But as a family, we never liked coming here. Now, we didn't have a great record here, particularly in the early 80s when Kevin Sheedy took over as coach, because the Bombers certainly did have the wood over Carlton during that period. Oh, but this was a hostile place to come to. Loud. I don't know, it was a fortress for the Bombers. And I didn't realise it was called Windy Hill because Lou Richards, in the 1950s, when he finished playing and he was writing for the Sun News Pictorial, he penned the name. And then it was popularised as Windy Hill thereafter, because I don't even know if it's on a hill, but yeah. And it's not too bad here today. It's a little bit breezy. So I'm going to take you around, guys, because it's still got some of the old features, particularly on this members side, so to speak. But on the outer side, it looks completely different. And I'll try to match up some of the iconic backdrops and talk a little bit about Carlton's sort of history here at this ground and a few other things. But yeah, Windy Hill, that's where I am today. Okay, so I'm going to start off with the three remaining grandstands here at Windy Hill. This one's the W.H. Cookson stand, which was built in 1963. Now, I'm glad I've come out here today to do some filming, because apparently there's supposed to be like some sort of $45 million redevelopment here at Windy Hill, and it wouldn't surprise me if one of these or two of these grandstands, which I'm going to show you today, are going to be demolished. So there she is. That's the W.H. Cookson stand. Now, I'm led to believe that underneath is also the Essendon Cricket Club sort of rooms as well. So we move along now to the Alan T. Hurd stand, which is, I think, the grandfather of James Hurd. This one was built in 1973, and it's also the Essendon Social Club in there, which is still a social club today. I think they have bingo and stuff in there. So yeah, that one was built 1973, and I roll around to the... And I actually sat in this grandstand one day because it was in 1981. I'll take you up there shortly where I actually sat, because I remember. This one's called the RS Reynolds stand. Now, I think this may have been built when the club came here in 1922, maybe a little bit later, so maybe the 1930s. This is probably the biggest stand here as well. I'm not quite sure whether any of these stands here are heritage listed, but these are the 3 remaining grandstands here at Windy Hill. Okay, so this is where the Essendon past players and officials used to sit, in the Reynolds stand. Starting to look a little bit in need of a good paint or a good renovation. Now, I sat in this grandstand in 1981 as a kid. Now let me quickly tell you the story. Now, I lived in Hoppers Crossing, and my best friend who lived across the road, his uncle worked here at Windy Hill in the 1970s and 1980s. Now he used to, now when I say he worked here at Windy Hill, it wasn't an important job, but he used to man the gate here in the Reynolds stand. I was trying to work out before what has happened to this place. Now this used to be the entrance. There used to be a set of stairs coming down here, and he used to stand here checking people's tickets. Now this never used to be here, this coach's box. I don't know when this was built, probably in the 1990s sometimes. But we didn't actually, with my mate, his uncle said, listen, come up. If there's no seats, I'll let you guys just sit on these steps here. And this is where we sat. We sat on these steps watching Essendon versus Carlton here in 1981, and we got pumped. Essendon were kicking goals down towards this end of the ground, and it was noisy and it was loud. And I was here with my mate, who was actually, he wasn't even an Essendon supporter, but we were in this grandstand and we were getting thumped. I can't even remember if I was brave enough to wear a Carlton jumper up here, but this place was rocking up here as Essendon stormed home under Kevin Sheedy, and they had the wood over us in that time and kicked our ass in that game. I don't think I survived in this spot. Maybe stayed here for a quarter and a half or up until half time, and then I pissed off and went and found mum and dad, who were out in the outer somewhere.
His kid goes out towards Shaw. He gives a hand pass across here towards Hawker. He gives it back towards Nagel. Nagel goes up towards the full forward position.
Alright, this is the back of the old Reynolds stand here. And this gives you a little bit of a feel what it would have looked like coming in to this ground from this entrance. There's an old turnstile there, but that wouldn't have been positioned there. But it is an old one. So you come through this little area here. Now this herd stand was built in, I think, 1973, so these toilets are not very big toilets for joint that held 35,000, but not that this was the only toilet in the area. Now, I reckon this might have been, I might be wrong, but I feel like, would that been the players race or entrance to the social club? Looks like entrance to the social club. Maybe, I'm just trying to think where the Essendon rooms would have been, maybe along there somewhere. Some standing room here in front of the old Alan Hurd stand. Gotta love the no standing signs. There would have been some angry sort of official in a blue, long blue overcoat, manning that area, probably smoking a Marlboro Red. I'll just take you up this section here, these old seats here. Starting to look a bit aged now, isn't it? Would have been a great viewing spot here at Windy Hill though, right in this spot. As the Bombers were storming home. That car park wasn't there. That would have been a spectator viewing area. And this was obviously the broadcast side of the ground. Let's just go up here and have a look. This is the cricket club. We see in there. There's some old photos in there. A couple of honour boards. One of the most disappointing things about this ground, and it's still such a beautiful place, is the decision to demolish the beautiful and wonderful Showers Pavilion, or the Showers stand, built in 1939 and pulled down in 2007. It was right here in the forward pocket. It was such a unique and I don't know, just great looking grandstand, which you couldn't miss on the coverage. Full of Essendon supporters. And I'm led to believe the only heritage listed grandstand here at this ground. They decided to keep these three other grandstands. I hope they remain. This is the one. I don't know why they pulled this one down. I just remember the signs on it as well. They had like blue sky pools. Right here in the forward pocket. And it sort of stopped just before, I reckon, the sort of, I don't know, about 15 metres away from the point post at this end. And there was a sort of like small standing room area behind these goals.
Forward of centre wing. Half a lead coming from Van der Haar, which he goes for. Perovic wears him like a glove and is penalised for pushing him in the back. Case of the glove not quite fitting. And Van der Haar is only 40 metres out. I think a goal here would put the issue beyond doubt. It's there, and it is. Second goal in 2.5 minutes to Paul Van der Haar.
I don't like these add-on buildings, but hey, it's now the home of the Essendon District Football League. I think they're their headquarters, but this is definitely an add-on. But I always wanted to stand behind these goals, but it was never going to happen. This is purely Essendon territory and Essendon territory only. There's a sort of like a really small little section just packed right next to the Showers Pavilion. And I remember this public section here, the standing room section, was actually sectioned off with a fence. You can see the fence, like a wire fence or a metal fence, which sort of ran along here, so that the public couldn't get anywhere near the exclusive Showers Pavilion, which would have been right here.
Who's been a star? Up to half forward. Van Haar's in the middle. Oh, yes! Play on! He's called play on. Unbelievable. Van Haar hooks the kick. His boot comes off, and it's a goal! Just what an amazing scene.
Okay, I found where the now I'm not quite sure if this was the Essendon rooms or the away rooms, but anyway, players would have come through this little race. Gee, it's a bit grotty in there now. Whoa. Actually a ramp that comes down there from the rooms. Looks like this hasn't been used for such a long time. So I'd assume this might have been the away rooms. The players would have come up this. They've looked at this grandstand. And then ran out into the ground.
Pushed away again by Bowles, picked up now by Bahaja. Oh, that's a shocking kick. He ran back into trouble. Then Marlon fumbled, but gets a beautiful hand pass coming over to Oscar, but he's thrown it. And there'll be a free kick. Oh, Ashman coming off the ground. That's bad luck. And Robertson to take his place. Well, Ashman's been plagued with injury this year. Great player, and have sad lost the cup.
One of the more famous incidents, and probably one of the more ugly incidents during the 1970s here at Windy Hill, was the Battle of Windy Hill. A game involving Essendon and Richmond. It was half time, and there was a massive all-in brawl right in this spot here, which involved not just players but also team officials. There were trainers involved, spectators, and police, as the players were making their way towards their respective races for the half-time break. And there was I wouldn't say funny, but one team official ended up being knocked out, I reckon right in this spot here, laying down on the ground, completely comatose. Didn't know what hit him.
Here, players and officials and everybody into this one. Right down in front, there's the cans going over the fence. The runners are in, Andrews is in. They're all in. It's going to be, look at this going on out here. Swindon in the scene. And Parsons going for his life. Didn't want to beat it. Players are laid out. People are laid out everywhere. One of the nastiest things I've seen in football for years.
Okay, another feature here at Windy Hill, which is now gone, was the Crichton Shelter, which I didn't realise it was called the Crichton Shelter, but it ran along this wing, probably around about 50 metres or so, similar to the one at North Melbourne. It had seats, 4 or 5 rows of seats, and then standing room underneath, and that was demolished for the bowling club, who had to move their greens when the leisure centre here, which is over in the Fort Pocket here, was built. Then the bowling club had access to that area, so they demolished the grandstand. And then the bowling club, which has always been there, as far as I am aware of, built their new greens just to the left-hand side where the Crichton's shelter once stood.
Free kick downfield, but as I said, of academic interest only because the Fish have taken the mark. 4 goals to him, and Salmon certainly the best forward on the ground at the moment insofar as results concerned. He's got 4 goals and playing a great game.
No doubt we stood in this forward pocket here at the primary end school of the ground. Now, the sun is right, you know, it's probably, the time I'm filming this, okay, is, I don't know, around about 3 o'clock. So it'll be like third quarter, okay? And the sun is actually right in my eyes here. And what I used to love about the football at these suburban grounds, and you probably still see it now, but in the footage on these massive terraces, you could see the supporters with either their football record up sheltering their eyes or their hands. You can see all their hands up sheltering their eyes from the sun. Now, the thing I remember about this ground, okay, as a kid, was, now there would have been an entrance gate here somewhere. It's all changed. It's all changed now. I'm just wondering if this is original sort of bluestone, part of the foundations here and the steps. I'm not quite sure, but I just have these really vivid memories of Windy Hill. And there would have been big fences here running all the way along the back here behind the goals to where the scoreboard would have been over there. But I've got these, oh, I don't know, just coming down here at half time, busting to go to the toilet as a young kid, and the foulest smelling and most volatile and hostile toilets, men's toilets, you could ever come across were, I don't know if they were strictly behind the goals or maybe here in the forward pocket behind the goals. And it was like fucking frightening for a kid to come here and have a leak. They were like pissed, angry blokes who, you know, their team was getting smashed or they were losing on the punt. Yeah, right here. Sort of kind of like this place for those sort of memories. I know it seems quite strange, but it was such an incredible place to come to, whether it was here or Victoria Park or even Arden Street, which I've already visited. Yeah, it was territorial. You know, you just never, as an opposition supporter, if you're wearing your scarf or your jumper and you went into their area or there were opposition supporters, you never felt comfortable. Never.
Robinson bouncing once again. Jenkins coming in there with Fitzpatrick. Jenkins gets his hand to the ball, but it's not clear. But here's Carlton going into attack once again. Oh! Taken by Walls. Walls breaks clear. He steadies. He kicks.
Another famous incident at this ground was in 1982 between Essendon and Hawthorn, and lethal Lee Matthews, playing for the Hawks obviously, at this end of the ground, the primary school end of the ground. Ball was kicked in high and Lee Matthews was running against the flight of the ball, and he ran straight into this point post. Now I don't know whether it's the same point post. It probably isn't, but it's snapped in half, and the part that snapped off, it didn't quite get into the crowd, but it nearly did. Lee Matthews, what a he-man.
Hey, there with merit. Oh, the post is broken. Matthews hit it and broke the point post. Oh, talk about a he-man. How was that and he split it right down in half. A fantastic effort.
Okay, the Blues never had a great record at this ground. Well, not that I can recollect anyway. Look, we would have won here. But we had a terrific win here in 1990 when we had a really, I'm going to say a shit side, but we were struggling. And the Bombers ended up playing in a grand final in 1990. They ended up getting beaten by Collingwood. But it was around 7, early in the year. And with a really ordinary side on the park, we faced Essendon here. And must have been blowing a gale down towards the primary school end, this end of the ground, because if you look at the scores in that game, I mean, we kicked a mountain of goals in the second quarter and then flew home in the last quarter, and the Bombers kicked 8 goals in the third quarter to have like a 14 or 15 point lead at 3/4 time. We kicked 7 goals in the last quarter to win the game. I'm going to talk about that last quarter in a minute, but right here in that game, Paul Meldrum, who was a star for Carlton, an absolute star, picked up the ball late in the last quarter when we were surging. And back in the day, yeah, this guy would have copped, I reckon, 7 or 8 weeks. He copped an elbow. I think it was from Somerville. Right in this spot here is Molly, Paul Meldrum, who picked up the ball and was streaming towards this end of the ground. He got whacked right in the jaw and went down.
A chance is Manning. He's tackled by Gleeson. He gets the hand pass away to Grimbold. And Grimbold kicks Essendon up towards half forward. Meldrum in front, can't gather it. Bassett, a crude tackle. Meldrum, down he goes from an elbow. And Meldrum, poor play by Somerville. And the book is coming out. And Meldrum's down behind play. Well, this game has been played in a great spirit for the entirety. And that's the only really nasty passage that we've seen. In the background, Werner and Dunlop doing the usual thing, having a pas de deux. And Meldrum in the hands of the trainers. He's got some courage, this man too, Paul Meldrum.
Okay, so in that game in 1990 where the Bombers were a really strong team, it was only round 7, but we come off a premiership in 87, fell away a little bit. Some of our ageing stars have retired. Kernahan and Bradley were still around, but we didn't have a particularly good team. Now, we flew home in that game and won that game in 1990 against the Bombers, 7 goals in the last quarter. And my favourite player as a kid was Jimmy Buckley. Now, I had the number 16 on my duffel coat and also my jumper, and I was obsessed by Jimmy Buckley. Now, in 1990, he was grey, and you look at him, he looked old. Okay, but he was only actually 30, 31 years of age. I think he made his debut with the Carlton Football Club in 1976 as a 16-year-old from Kyneton. So he played a lot of football, 3-time premiership player, best and fairest winner in 1982. Now, I reckon this would have been one of Jimmy's last games for the Blues at senior level. Ended up playing a little bit of reserve grade football, but this game for me, I remember it because of Jimmy Buckley in the last quarter, the aging Jimmy Buckley kicking 2 last quarter goals and the excitement on the old boy's face after he kicked those 2 goals. There was one, I think the last one was from this position here. He rode the ball off the pack and kicked a goal from here. And the other one, the first one, was from over this side of the ground here in the last quarter. The great Jimmy Buckley bringing the Blues home in a great win here at Windy Hill in 1990.
Reynolds from a standing start, down towards Kernahan. Close to the boundary line is Salmon. Oh, they keep it in play. Fraser Murphy onto the left foot, in towards full forward. Satori is down there. Is there holding on from Hamilton? Satori gets clear. A quick hand pass to Buckley. It's coming back. Buckley's goal.
The Bombers defending desperately. The ball comes clear. Buckley. Shot for goal by Buckley. The fans love it. It's there!
Oh, this is pretty cool. So they've landscaped the back, but they've kept like 6 rows of the old terrace here at the primary end school of the ground, which is really cool. Really like it. And this would have been just up here. Maybe that's the old foundation for the scoreboard, not quite sure. Just here. May have stood right there. That was the old foundation. As we scroll around, this would have been a great place to watch the footy here as an opposition supporter, or even as an Essendon supporter. Now, they never realised there was a croquet club here at Windy Hill, but here it is here.